we will enjoy a presentation from Stuart Mose. Naivety is a superpower. Thank you.
Okay, I suppose I better make a start. I should qualify myself by why am I here, and I suppose talking about naivety, I'll throw myself straight on my sword and say that I'm probably in a group here that know way more about motor neuron disease and ALS than I ever will. But what I wanted to do is bring a different perspective. So I work for Rolls-Royce, and we have recently been, in the last couple of years, working with the UK Motor Neuron Disease Association. And I wanted to share with you kind of a perspective on some of the things that we've done. It's maybe not what you would expect. So let me sort of take it from the top and I'll explain a bit about Rolls-Royce. If you're expecting to see something about motor cars today, I should probably explain that we don't really make motor cars anymore. Rolls-Royce is primarily a manufacturer of aero engines, and this will hopefully illustrate to you why this is probably a bit of an odd presentation to think, well, hang on, these guys who spend all their time engineering jet engines, what possible angle could they have on motor neuron disease? I should excuse that I will always refer to it ALS as motor neuron disease. It just tends to be the way we refer to it in the UK. But you know, ALS, motor neuron disease, in my mind, for the basis of this presentation, pretty much interchangeable terminology. So you probably think, well, there's this chap here now from Rolls-Royce, and he's going to explain to us a whole load of stuff about engineering, and maybe I should switch off. Well, I would say to you, please don't do that. Hang on just a minute, and I'll explain to you why naivety is a superpower. So during our everyday activities in Rolls-Royce, one of the things that we try to do is innovate. And with innovation, one of the problems that you have, the innovation conundrum, if you like, is people want to always continue thinking. If you look at this as a train tracks, they want to think in their standard way. And they're pretty used to going down those train tracks and following the convention. And then it becomes ingrained in your kind of psyche of this is the way we do things. Now, my job, I've worked in Rolls-Royce for 20 odd years, and in the last probably 7 or 8, I've been responsible for a lot of our innovation activities across the company. And we are a kind of a global organization. And my job is to try and get people nudged across to thinking differently and going on a new track to somewhere else. And that's really, really difficult to achieve. So what I'm going to try and do is give you some tips on how you might do that, and then sort of explore how we've done this with relation to motor neuron disease. So as I said, we're a company that's spread across the world. And what we found is the way of cheating this, if you sit there and try and brainstorm about problems on your own, you'll usually find it quite difficult to think outside of the box, think outside of the conventions that you already understand and know. So what we do is we effectively cheat. We realized that it's a team game, and what you need to do is mix with people who don't think like you do, and they will influence you to see outside of your usual routes that you go in life down those train tracks. So we try and do, and I dare say, exactly the same as is happening today with this event. We try and incite conversations between our employees across the globe. And every one of those conversations, those overlaps of people with different perspectives, each overlap is an opportunity for innovation to happen. And that's where a lot of our innovation as a company comes from. So with that in mind, just to show you behind the scenes of Rolls-Royce, we have an internal website where we collect our ideas. We call it our innovation portal. And I started thinking probably about 5 or 6 years ago that maybe there is a kind of person who's good at innovating. And actually, much to my surprise, after doing some analysis on the company, this fairly complicated looking chart, which I'll boil it down for you in a second. Round the outside, the donut round the edge, if you like, is different parts of our company. And the big swooshes of colour going across are who came up with the idea to solve that part of the company's problem. To make it easy for you, if you squint at it, 65% of the time, the winning idea came from a different part of the company, a different part of the world. So the majority of the time, naivety wins on coming up with innovative new ideas. And that was our experience. Now, that may be just a unique thing in Rolls-Royce. So we went one step further and we collaborated with a couple of universities, Nottingham University in the UK and KTH in Sweden. And they did 2 investigations into this from different angles, and they found out pretty much the same sort of thing as well. And I'd encourage you to go and look at their TED Talks on the topic. But ultimately, they found that naivety is this kind of, as I've already proposed, this superpower for doing new stuff, and hopefully new, better stuff that doesn't necessarily take into account some of the issues that are the conventional way of doing things. So with that in mind, hopefully you'll spot the family resemblance. This is my father, so I should come clean. He passed away from motor neurone disease around about 4 or 5 years ago, which is around about the time that I'd realised that naivety seemed to be quite a good thing to take into battle when you're trying to do new stuff. So I should say at that point, I kind of reached out to the Motor Neurone Disease Association and said to them, maybe there's something we could do together. So in a nutshell, what I decided to do was invite the Motor Neurone Disease Association to be one of our outreach partners. And I'd moved inside our company to our IT part of the company, and most big corporations nowadays will outsource lots of elements of the way they do IT. And so I said to them, well, if we look around us and before we get started, let's think about what odd things that we've got at our disposal. So arguably, I've got at disposal a whole load of really big international IT companies that could maybe be invited to the party and to come and get involved with us in an outreach project. So we added them in as well. So we asked them if they'd come and take part. And we said, if we can do something to help people with motor neurone disease, that would be a great outcome. So that's as kind of naive as we approached the problem. This is what actually happened. So we held an event in Derby at our IT base, and all of the backs of heads that you can see there are representatives from 20 companies in the IT industry that came to this event. And we said to them, would you like to help us? We still don't know exactly what we're going to do. We've got some ideas there up on the screen about maybe communications and things. But would you like to take part with us? Now we had, if I try and probably put up a bit more enticing image than lots of backs of heads, but these are some of the companies that took part and have actually since then in the last 2 years really thrown themselves into trying to help us with this project. So, you know, household names like Microsoft and Dell, you know, really big companies, and they've got involved, Intel as well. You'll probably see there, there's a logo in the middle, which is the NHS, which is the UK health service. They were in the room as well. But the important thing here being that they were kind of outnumbered by the people who didn't know about motor neurone disease and didn't know what the limitations were. So we pulled together and we actually set about doing the following. We came up with a kind of not just one project, but actually 3. And they were all aimed around what we called next generation voice. So we termed this group the Next Generation Think Tank. And the project that we work on is Next Generation Voice. And the idea behind that was, what things could we do to help communication for people with ALS and motor neurone disease? We kind of ended up with these 3 projects that were split down into voice banking, which was trying to take a profile of your natural voice, something to do with dysarthric speech, and then looking at trying to make a next generation of AAC device. So where are we with it now? The thing I'm very proud to tell you today is that we are on the brink of making voice banking a free activity in the UK. So if you wanted to capture your voice, you will now find that in combination of Motor Neurone Disease Association, Dell Technologies, Intel, a number of different parties are pulling together to make this thing accessible to all. It previously, to starting this project, would take you exceptionally long amount of time to do that, and it would be fairly costly. We're going to make it free. You can do it in under an hour. You can do it at home, and all of the technology is provided for you to do it. So that's the first thing I can tell you. And that is right on the brink of being launched as we speak. The second thing we were looking at was we started talking about how we could maybe, as companies that don't see these things as a medical device, we start thinking about things from maybe a technology point of view. How could we bring AI into this? And so there is currently testing going on a new system for interpreting dysarthric speech. That's now happening in the UK as well. And the final thing that we did was we said, well, if we could design a system which would almost be like it could read your mind, it knew what you wanted to say, so you didn't actually have to type in anymore. Wouldn't that be awesome? Because the slowest thing on using eye gaze is the typing. And we demoed a proof of concept of a way of doing that using artificial intelligence in October time. So much to my surprise, naivety was a superpower in all of this, because we didn't know that these were things that were difficult to do. So we just set about trying to do them. And we are now in a situation where some of these things are on the brink of being a reality, and some of these things look like they might have a route to market effectively at the end of all of this. I suppose with that in mind, it's come as quite a roller coaster ride to share with you guys that, you know, this aerospace engineering company would maybe be able to incite some of this stuff. But the thing I wanted to really get across is, please, 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 do ask people outside of the sphere of expertise for the things you're trying to achieve, because quite often they will have a different angle on things and will help you to achieve things in a different way. And it might be something that you would never, ever have ordinarily come up with on your own. So I suppose at that point, I'd sort of wrap it up and be open to any questions. Really, the thing I was keen to do was give you a flavour of this stuff was happening, and let you know that if you want to reach out and contact us, we're more than happy to talk. Pablo, any questions?
Thank you so much, Stuart. That was excellent. That was a very smooth ride from aerospace engineering to ALS M&D. So
it's hard to
yes,
explain.
no, it was really clear. It was really clear. That was excellent. I do have a question for you. It's a question from Andrea. Did you work with any existing voice banking groups in developing next gen voice, or is this a new technology?
And that is, so I'll have to say, right, so some of the things on new technology, some of them are more about pulling together a service. So if you think of it as it's existing technology, I think it's called Acapella is the company that does it. But there's expenses that come with that. There's technology that you need to use with that. So you need to have a fairly reasonable system and microphone and you know, method of capturing your voice. Actually, what we've done is got some of the technology companies said, well, you don't need to develop new stuff. You could actually provide some of that equipment so that people can do this. So not everybody's necessarily got the equipment to start with. And that's what they pulled together to do. And they're looking at financing some of that as well. So some of the things are technology, some of the things are more services.
Great. Clear. Okay, Stuart, thank you so much again. That was brilliant. Thank you so much.